What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Meko. I am one of the content creators over on the POD YouTube channel. And before we jump into today's topic, if you guys could do me the biggest favor, be sure to hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button. That's huge for this channel, and it actually will make it easier for you to find any of our content going forward. And if you really want to be able to get locked into our content or be notified as soon as we upload or go live over here on YouTube, be sure to hit that notification bell as well. It really helps out this channel. So with the business stuff out of the way, like I said, my name is Meko, and if you clicked on this video, I'm pretty sure you're in a similar boat that I am. And what I mean by that is, listen, we all know that the Lions season ended yesterday when they suffered a pretty heartbreaking loss to the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And if you're like me, you probably woke up this morning still feeling that level of hurt and disappointment from that loss. And being fully transparent, I'm in a better place to talk about that game today than I was last night. But going through today, I still found myself just, again, trying to, overcome and get rid of the feeling of hurt of seeing the Lions not quite get to the Super Bowl. And that may sound ridiculous to some people, but when going into this season, I think most of us as Lions fans had this feeling that, you know what, the Lions had the opportunity to do something special, and we weren't sure exactly what that was. But as the season unfolded, the anticipation for being able to, climb and reach new milestones just increased week by week. And while I can honestly say as a fan that I didn't see them necessarily getting to the NFC Championship and getting so close to the Super Bowl, I can still say that, you know what, the disappointment of seeing them not get there is still very real. But in spite of that, that disappointment doesn't trump the biggest, point that a lot of us as fans should be focusing on when looking and recapping on this season. And if you're wondering, like, okay, well, Meko, what is that big thing that I should be focusing on? And it's the fact that this Lions team, this Lions regime is legit. This run that we just saw the Lions go on, this was not a flash in the pan. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a fraudulent team that just, quote unquote, got lucky along the way. The work that we've seen Sheila Ford Hamp, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Rod Wood, like the work that we've seen this team put in since Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes stepped foot into that building is very real. And we finally got to see, maybe not in its full form, but we can see where this is going. And throughout this season, early in the season when they're winning, they lose to Seattle, they start winning a few more games in a row, they drop a game to Baltimore. There were a lot of times where I think people started to second guess what this team was capable of. But again, down the stretch, they continue to find ways of, again, like I said, reaching those new heights, reaching those new milestones. And those are the memories, those that feeling of, again, accomplishing new things is something that I know I'm personally doing my best to gravitate towards, despite the fact of this season coming to an end a little bit sooner than I wanted it to. I'd be lying to you guys if I said I didn't want to see the Lions in the Super Bowl. I had full expectation and full belief that this Lions team could get the best of the 49ers. And for one entire half, they were showcasing that. But unfortunately, this is part of, the playoffs. This is part of football. Someone has to lose. And in that game yesterday, we saw a Lions team come out and they put up an amazing fight. But the thing that ultimately doomed them was just their inability to execute down the stretch. But it still brings me back to my big point in that I think this team is still very much capable of getting back to where they were. And to Dan Campbell's point, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, I don't think it'll be easy. It's going to be so much harder to get to this same point next season as it did this year because everybody knows what you're capable of. But that is a good thing. We've talked about for so many years, for so many seasons, about how so many teams and organizations and fan bases overlook Detroit and overlook the Lions because we have this history of losing. But in one season, not even really one season, in like 1.5 seasons, if I go back to even the 2022 year, this team has completely, in my opinion, rewritten the expectations across the entire league. I've seen a couple of people on Twitter or writers or sports commentators already kind of say this. Detroit's going to become a destination place. Why? Because of that leadership, because of an owner who empowers her GM and empowers her head coach, because of a GM who's willing to go the unconventional route and still be able to find quality assets, specifically via the draft. For a head coach that empowers his players and, again, is willing to put trust in them and put them in position to shine. For a coaching staff that's very much doing the exact same thing, empowering their players and helping them improve along the way. Detroit is going to be the place where a lot of free agents are going to want to come. And even if they don't, it's still going to be that team that when other opposing organizations see it on their schedule, that mentality of like, oh, it's just Detroit, that's dead and gone, in my opinion. This team has proven throughout a long season, going 12-5, and a playoff run, that they can't be overlooked, that they can't be underestimated. Yes, San Francisco got the win, and like I said, I think they executed much better than Detroit did down the stretch. But you'd be lying to yourself if you said that this team still didn't give them a fight, that they didn't make it difficult on them. This would be a completely probably different narrative if the same thing that happened in Baltimore happened last night. We would probably be talking about how this team is still going to have to prove that they're legit. I think they've done that. I think Dan Campbell has done that as a head coach. Despite what many may say about his coaching decisions, listen, at this point in time, we all kind of just got to get on board with the fact that this is who Dan is. He's never going to take the easy road, quote unquote. He's never going to be that traditional coach that just, always going to do what you, quote unquote, are supposed to do. Dan's going to go by what he believes is going to help his team win. And I think for most of the time, he's very in tune with what this team needs and how this team needs to approach games. And I know there's going to be people that are questioning those coaching decisions. Listen, guys, I don't know what to tell you. He's been here for 3 years, and I don't think he's ever changed. This is who he is, and I think we as a fan base have to just either accept it or just admit that you're never going to like those decisions. And that's fine if you don't, but expecting Dan Campbell to change at this point isn't going to happen. Like I said, he has an owner that doesn't ask that of him. He has a GM that doesn't ask that of him, and his players aren't demanding that he do those things. So as I kind of sit here and, like I said, I'll be completely honest with you guys, I'm still processing the loss, and I'm hoping by tomorrow, and if not by tomorrow, hopefully by the end of the week, I'm in a better mood, because I don't want one loss in the postseason and coming up short of the Super Bowl to drown out all the great things that this team has done and to block out all the potential that I see for this team. There is a lot of great players. There's a culture, there's a mindset, there's a vision, and there's a person leading the charge that I believe all Detroit fans can really get behind. And like I said, that doesn't guarantee that they'll absolutely get back to the NFC Championship. But best believe when next season starts and they start having those hypothetical, conversations of, okay, well, who can win the NFC? Best believe Detroit's going to be in the conversation. And I think that's a new standard that we as fans can start to expect. And that's something to be excited about. Yes, we're going to have to see what free agency looks like. We're going to have to see what the draft looks like. We're going to have to see who's healthy and who's not by the time the season starts. But as far as an expectation, we as a fan base can justifiably expect winning games, winning the division, getting into the playoffs. It doesn't have to be a hope anymore. And that's huge. That's huge for us as fans. It's something that I think if you had told, your parents or your grandparents that the Lions would get to this point, they'd have a hard time believing it. And so, yeah, it's frustrating. There's no way I can get you to not be frustrated about Kendall Vildor not catching that interception, or about Josh Reynolds, not catching a key fourth down. Those things happen. Absolutely. And those players are going to have to go into the offseason, and this team is going to have to go into the offseason, and they're going to have to evaluate how they get better from those moments. Again, I take you guys back to 2022 when we were watching Hard Knocks, and Dan Campbell, came out with the pants with the baby powder or whatever in it. This team is still shaking out those last little bits of losing. The one thing that I can honestly feel confident in through 3 years of having Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Sheila Ford Hamp, Rod Wood leading this team is that this team adapts. This team is getting better. There's continued buy-in because there's continued success. And so, can I guarantee you guys that the Lions will get back into the NFC Championship next year? No. But I can also guarantee, though, a little more strongly, that I don't think this team takes a huge step back. I think we can start going into seasons expecting 10-plus win seasons, expecting them to win the division. Not saying it'll be easy, because Green Bay definitely started to come on late. We'll have to see if Chicago ever figures it out. We'll have to see what Minnesota does with their quarterback situation. There's some variables. But I think the things that we know about Detroit, the constants that we know about this team, those are the bright spots. Those are the things to really hold on to. And so, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really expect this to be much of a therapy session. I think Chris Perfett did an amazing job giving a great therapy session. If you haven't checked out the latest PODcast, definitely do that. If you want to catch the entire live stream, that's over here on the YouTube channel. You can definitely rewatch that entire thing and get his insight and some of the back and forth that he had with some of the fans that were tuned in. But if you're like me, if you were still struggling to shake off this loss, the only thing I can give you is to look to what this team has accomplished and really ask yourself, do you really think this team is capable of taking a step back? With what you've seen the players do, how you've seen, Amon-Ra go from, late, round pick, fourth round pick, to a Pro Bowler last year, to an All-Pro this year, and fairly comfortably in the top 5 wide receiver conversation. From Penei Sewell being that same type of trajectory, right? First round pick, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, and is literally on the cusp. Forget on the cusp. Literally, probably I keep adding, some player. He is the best right tackle in football. Hands down. No disrespect to Lane Johnson. Penei Sewell is the best right tackle in football. Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the best up-and-coming running backs, and could easily be an All-Pro next year. I think I'm willing to bet on it. Same with Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. Aiden Hutchinson starting to really shine and show what he's capable of. It could very well be an All-Pro next year. There's a lot to be excited about for this team. So yeah, it's tough to see the season end. It's tough to know that you were one game away from the Super Bowl, and it's tough not knowing if you're going to ever get that close ever again. I get it, but I think there's enough proof in the pudding to at least have some legitimate hope, some legitimate confidence that this team can get there. So I hope, between what I'm saying in this video, if you haven't, again, if you didn't catch what Chris said in the post-game show, and again, you can check it out anywhere you can find podcasts, or like I said, you can rewatch the entire live stream. over here on YouTube or on Twitch if you prefer. I hope this gives you some encouragement. I hope it helps in terms of moving on beyond this loss, because I don't think any of us as Lions fans should dwell on this loss and let it overshadow everything this team has accomplished and everything this team is capable of accomplishing in the future. So, with that said, I want to hear from you guys. How are you guys feeling after this loss? What are you most excited for going forward? How are you coping with the loss? Where do you think the Lions need to go from here? Whatever you feel like sharing, let me know in the comment section below. Because again, this is a great place for that. Pride of Detroit is a really good, strong community of Lions fans, and I think there's a lot of great insight that we can all share with each other. So leave that in the comment section below. Also, if you're looking for any more articles, if you're looking for any news, any updates, because obviously there's coaching hires going on, there's going to be a lot of free agency news, draft news going to be coming out soon. Make sure that you're tuned into prideofdetroit.com. That way you can be notified and stay up to date with all the latest news coming out there. And like I said at the top of this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. All of those things help out this channel a lot. So with all that said, I'm Meko. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.